they released the first Marvel project of 2025. And this is where it got exciting. It had to deal with our favorite wall crawler, Spider-Man. That's right. We talked about a little bit in our upcoming show. Marvel was giving us a new Spider-Man animated series called Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Now, obviously, because Spider-Man's my favorite Marvel character, obviously that's going to, pique my interest a bit. Like, oh, really? But there were a couple things that made me unsure what to think of this show before it started. One is the history of Marvel Studios animation, which we had X-Men 97, which was great. No, not just great, perfect. But then we had What If, which was not that great. And they were bringing in the voice actor of Spider-Man, Hudson Thames, from What If into this show. So it is kind of connected, but not really. Second thing is the recent track record of Spider-Man animated series. Now, not counting, I'm talking about television animation, not counting the Spider-Verse movies. The last one was from 2017, which a lot of people hate that show. I think it's okay, but it wasn't anything special. The one before that was Ultimate Spider-Man with Drake Bell, and what a piece of garbage that turned out to be. And, we've gone, 2009 was 16 years ago? I think that's when Spectacular ended. So we've gone 16 years without a great Spider-Man show. So there was that. And what was the third one? Right. This was another big one. Why did I forget this for a second? The history of Marvel Studios with Spider-Man. Look, is it fair to say Tom Holland's Spider-Man is probably the most divisive of all the Marvel characters? Like, everyone loves Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. Everyone loves Chris Evans' Captain America. Everyone loves Chris Hemsworth's Thor. Well, most of the time.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, they made some really bad choices with, where they turned him into an Iron Man knockoff and basically a comedy show for little kids. They did butcher it, but also at the same time you had what the Russo brothers did, and then they did a great job with No Way Home. So I didn't know what to expect going into the show. I was just like hoping for the best, but kind of prepared of just like, we'll write it off if it sucks. And then you know what happened a few days before the show came out?
Oh, what?
The reviews came out. And I was shocked when I saw the reviews when they said it was great. I was like, what? Wait. Oh, also, that trailer we saw, not the best. So I did sit down and watch it because they dropped the first 2 episodes at the end of January. So I sat down and watched it. It was Spider-Man Day that day. And I watched it. And Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is amazing, spectacular, and sensational. This show is great. And I had to ask, who edited that trailer together? And you took the worst parts of that show because wow, that trailer does not represent this show.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second best Disney Plus Marvel show behind X-Men 97. So that's saying something. But even more than that, this is one of the best projects Marvel Studios has ever done, going back to Iron Man. This show is great. And one thing it does is it takes a lot of liberties with the Spider-Man mythos because their whole thing is it's an alternate version of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. So it does take a lot of liberties, but it still keeps the core of who Spider-Man is and who Peter Parker is. It's not like, with Spider-Man Homecoming where they kind of lost the core of who the character is. It's more like Ultimate Spider-Man, the recent Jonathan Hickman comic book, where they're taking some liberties, but it still feels definitively Spider-Man. And now it was pitched originally as an origin story, Tom Holland's version. But I would say, it feels just as much like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man or the Spectacular Spider-Man animated series. If you have not been a fan of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, this show feels like a nice blend of the past 60 years of this character. It's not just Tom Holland. It feels like you have stuff from every version of the character.
Very cool.
And this show does a great job of telling a superhero story while also telling a personal story about Peter Parker. And I felt this way about X-Men 97, but their runtime is about 30 minutes, which is 8 minutes longer than what a traditional animated show is. And I really feel like having that extra time allows us to focus more on Peter's personal life, which really allows the show to stand out. And one thing I wasn't expecting from this show is that they have a really interesting take on this character named Lonnie Lincoln, who in the show is a big football player and is like a legit friend to Peter Parker. Like, this nerdy kid has a friend who is a big high school football player, and that makes it tragic knowing that one day Lonnie Lincoln will become the villain Tombstone, who we saw in the recently he's had a big role in the Spider-Man video games. And along with Lonnie, we have new supporting characters that add to Peter's story, like Nico is a girl who's his best friend, and Pearl, who is this girl he has a crush on, who is also his babysitter, but she's dating Lonnie Lincoln. And those characters are, along with Lonnie Lincoln, are a great addition to Peter Parker's story. But also, we have Harry Osborn in there, and we also have Norman Osborn. So we have a nice, healthy dose of our classic Spider-Man cast mixed in with some newer characters. And the voice acting in this show is really good, especially Hudson Thames as Spider-Man and Coleman Domingo as Norman Osborn. I will say one thing that's kind of a mixed bag that we saw from the trailer is the animation style. I think that at some points, the animation style looks fine. And the character designs themselves, not the CGI animation style, but just the character designs themselves look great. They look like combination of Steve Ditko's design with Alex Toth, who did like Johnny Quest and Space Ghost.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it looks fine. But where the animation looks really weird is if we have close-up action, like a character turning their head one way.
Yeah.
It looks weird then. Or a character turning around. When you kind of get into that 360 type movement, that's when it looks weird. But so the animation is a mixed bag. But where it does really shine is in the web swinging. Like, when you have the web swinging and you're a bit far away, that's where that animation style really benefits the show. And I do have one other complaint. It's not a big one. It's not a big one. I just gotta say it. Wasn't a fan of how they waited until I've only seen the first 5 episodes. I still have the rest of the season to go. But from what I've seen, they saved the classic red and blue suit for the last 2 episodes. That's kind of something like, really, guys? Really? Yeah. That's kind of like if we were watching the first Tobey Spider-Man movie and he wears the wrestler costume the whole time. Yeah. It's not until he goes to fight Goblin on the bridge that he wears the classic suit.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a fan of that choice, but whatever. The show's still great. That doesn't ruin the show. It's just, did we have to do that? I don't think we did. But looking at this show overall for Marvel, this is another big win for Marvel. And the two things that I think of when looking about how big a win this is for Marvel is one, well, I'll go with this first. When you look at this with X-Men 97, Marvel Animation is clearly on a roll. And looking at like this show add to the Disney Plus lineup, you have X-Men 97, Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and Daredevil. We have like some big anchor characters on Disney Plus that we haven't had in a while. Like it was, we had like Hawkeye and Moon Knight and Loki, but now we're getting like the big A-list characters on Disney Plus, and that's something I think is great. And also, if there's a season arc for this show, which you could wonder, how is that possible for this show? But there is. It's that this year we could finally say that Marvel has come back. And I really feel like starting with X-Men 97, we've been on a roll lately. Now, a lot of people are talking about the failure of Captain America 4. I don't think a Captain America 4 movie without Steve Rogers, doing a Hulk story without Bruce Banner, that had a lot of production issues, is that big a deal. I think everyone kind of knew that movie was going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, you take your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and you add it to the pile of wins with X-Men 97 and Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, for me, I've been saying, like, if Daredevil and Fantastic Four are good, then we can say Marvel is back. And I wasn't really kind of expecting much from this Spider-Man cartoon, but you got to put it in the win pile. Like, this is another recent win for Marvel.
Yeah.
And also, as someone who has not been a fan of the recent Spider-Man movies, you know, love the third one, hated the first two. To me, this is another sign that Marvel has learned their lesson with Spider-Man, that yes, we did drop the ball, turn him into an Iron Man knockoff, but we basically rebooted the character in No Way Home. We've done a more proper origin story in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It definitely gets me more optimistic for Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Cool. For Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I cannot believe how great this show has been. And I've seen other people say it, but I think it bears repeating. Like, when you rank all the Spider-Man animated shows, clearly the ones fighting for first place and second place are the 90s cartoon, The Spectacular Spider-Man. But Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man comfortably sits at number 3. Considering how many Spider-Man shows there are, that's saying something.
Yeah.
So I know you have not seen Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was pleasantly, or you zoomed out there. That was weird. Or it just like you're like, it must have been in one of those gesture things.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, that's pleasantly surprising because when I watched the trailer on here, I was kind of like, I don't know. So yeah, luckily the show is very different than that.